Hi everyone, in this video we're gonna dive into Substance and I'm gonna show you how to create those flamey textures I've got there. So we're gonna create a quick sprite sheet, 4 of those different shapes, and we're gonna just use them to spawn behind our mesh, so it blends nicely between the mesh and the trails as well. So let me isolate those for you. Very simple sprite sheet that we're gonna pick randomly shapes from just to create additional detail to our projectile. Alright, so let's dive into Substance and let's create those shapes. So now in Substance, I'm gonna start with shape. I'm gonna pick this soft circle because I wanna create a mask for my tile sampler. So next, I'm gonna get tile sampler. For the amount, I'm gonna go maybe 6 by 6. Change the pattern to disk. Plug this into mask map input, and in here I'm just gonna put some larger scale, some scale random as well, random position, and I'm gonna use my mask here and I'm gonna invert it. Okay, and in here I'm just gonna go back and start increasing the scale slightly and play with the position random to get a nice shape. Okay, keep increasing the scale. I think I'm gonna just decrease my mask actually, or actually increase it, maybe 0.9, and now play with the position random, just trying to extract some cool shape somewhere in the middle. Okay, so I quite like this, however, I don't want that hole, so I'm gonna blend it. I'm gonna copy my shape, change it to disk, plug it in here, that one goes to the top, and I'm gonna select subtract, and we are getting rid of some of those. Alright, so I'm just gonna continue with my shape, and next I'm gonna use bevel with the minus values to get maybe something like this. And also I want to try a radial blur grayscale. I'm going to play with the definitely with the samples. I'm going to increase the samples to maximum. For the angle, I'm going to keep the low value, maybe something like 0.09. However, I want to play with the center position, so I can create a kind of nice blur, I think. Right, so with this one I actually want to go to the minus value, so maybe minus 0.3, and I'm gonna disable tiling because I don't want any tiling. Okay, so slight blur. I'm just gonna stick with this shape for now. I want to see if I can blend those two together because I just want some hard shapes from that one. So I'm just gonna maybe put add. It might not work because we're kind of getting the overblown values in this area. So I'm gonna put maybe max. And for now I'm just gonna roll with it because it kind of gives me nice break here. I know it doesn't look like a texture now, but I'm hoping it's gonna work later on. I'm gonna mix those two together slightly better. I'm gonna use the warp and pedaling noise. And decrease the scale on the pedaling noise, maybe do something like that. Warp, I think we can go with the maybe default value or slightly increase it to 2. I think 2 might be a little bit too much, so maybe 1.5. And I'm gonna bring that texture to the middle, so I'm gonna use transform tool just to bring it slightly, maybe scale it down as well. Okay. And next I'm gonna use a swirl grayscale. And with the swirl I'm gonna go with a low amount just to maybe twist it slightly. Something like that, and you can play where you want your twist to be and maybe scale it up slightly as well. And as you can see, you can get very cool shapes with it if you play manually where you want to place it. So I want maybe something like this. It kind of gives me really cool shapes. I think it might work for my flames. And so I'm gonna stick with it. I'm gonna blur it slightly. So I'm gonna get blur. The blur is gonna be there only for the glow. So I'm gonna blend those back together. I'm gonna set this to max. And now I can play with the opacity, how much glow I want. Maybe somewhere around 0.8. Next, maybe let's try warp, but let's try this multi-directional warp grayscale instead of normal one. Gonna get pedaling noise. And in here, maybe try various settings. I'm gonna scale it down because I want slight distortion there, not too much. For the intensity, I'm gonna ramp it to 50. I think that's a little bit too much. However, it might work if we're gonna scale it back down with our scale for the pedaling noise. It kind of works, I think, but still feels a little bit too much. So I'm just gonna decrease it slightly because I want those nice swirly details there, but not too much. So I'm gonna keep it like this. I'm gonna see if I can add another swirl to it, and if I can actually twist the shapes even more with that twist, but obviously I want a low amount. Okay. Yeah, so see if you can experiment maybe with that twist, see if you can get some cool results with it. I'm gonna maybe go around here and get even less twist. So just a slight, and maybe something like that. As you can see, we are getting a cut on the texture here. So ideally, I think this will be our blur. So if I go here and maybe get rid of the blur, it's partially blur and something else. So maybe good idea maybe to get our transform, that transform and scale it slightly down. So as you can see, it's not gonna affect our edges. And now let's go back to that swirl and see if we can adjust the shape slightly. Okay, what about the other side? You can maybe twist it to the other side and get a slightly different result with that swirl node. I'm just trying to create some interesting shape for the flames here, and I think it could work. The multi-directional warp grayscale, let's go back to it while having swirl selected, and let's see if we can play with different settings and see what those settings are gonna give us. So I think min gives me some really cool results, and I think I'm gonna go with min actually. Yep. Okay, next let's see. I think it would be nice to maybe blur some of those shapes because they seems to be too hard edge. So I'm just gonna add some blur to it, not too much because I don't want to destroy my shape. So that will be maybe 0.5 or even 1. Okay, maybe 2. Seems like 2 might be working okay, so that will be 2. I'm gonna get the radial blur again. Just trying to think if I can twist it both directions, so copy and paste. However, this one's gonna be on the minus values for angle. And I'm gonna blend those two together to see if I can create a nice blur around that texture. That'll be set to max. and I want to blend it back into our original texture. But I want to switch the order because I want to control how much of that blur I actually want as a glow. So in here, I'm going to set it to max with just a little bit on the opacity, something like 0.3. Okay, and finally, I will check if I can apply my warp grayscale again. I'm gonna use exactly the same paddling noise I used here. I don't know if it's needed. I'm just gonna see what it's gonna give me. I'm gonna put maybe a 50 there just to distort my texture a bit more. And I think it works quite well, so I'm just gonna keep it like this, and let's create a color gradient to see if our colors actually might work. So that will be a gradient map here. I'm gonna open the editor, select the second one, put maybe slightly yellow or orange color there. And next one's gonna be much more reddish or orange, and at the end I'm just gonna put a red color. However, I'm gonna tone down the intensity of it. Okay, so I'm gonna use something like this for the flames. You can see it kind of gives me some really cool results, especially with this trailing here and some glow around it. So I've got my gradient map, and also just to see how it might look while it's glowing, I'm gonna apply glow here. For the glow, I'm gonna go for the red color, and I'm gonna play with some of the values here. So max glow and glow size as well, just to add a bit more glow to that center bit. Okay, so we'll be testing our additional textures with this. So next, I'm just gonna add transform here, scale it down, make sure it fits into this area so I can create a sprite sheet from it. Okay, so that's our first. Let's get that whole graph, copy, paste it down here, and get another transform here, plug the second graph to it. However, I'm just gonna offset this there and blend those two together. I'm gonna use add, and now I'm gonna go back here somewhere and see if I can actually tweak some of the shapes. I'm not gonna tweak our original shape because I wanna keep it as it is. However, I'm gonna go to maybe my swirl and just move it around just to see if I could get a slightly different look here. I think we've got another swirl here. You can play with the values as well, just to get a different results. Okay, and now I'm gonna use my gradient, plug those two back in to see if they kinda look flamey and if they would fit into my projectile effect. Okay, so I've just done two. There's no point in me going to create all four, because I think you should understand the process by now. Just copy the whole graph, blend it back in together here, or blend those, actually copy this whole setup, change the values, blend two setups together, and you have a sprite sheet of 4 flames. Okay, so I hope you enjoyed this one. I think playing with the swirl helped me a lot to get really cool looking shapes. You might play with a directional warp grayscale actually with those settings, because sometimes it might give you better results. So let me just preview it here, and in this setup I'm just gonna grab one of those, maybe that one actually, get rid of intensity, and as you can see we're getting much more clear shape. Okay, so maybe I've added too much intensity here, maybe slight distortion. So play with this, get like a completely 4 different looking flames. Probably just play with this value for the intensity. So that one's got like a lot more intensity, this one's got just a little bit, and create various different shapes so we can get a nice variation here. And I'm sure it's gonna work nicely with your fire projectile. Alright, thank you so much for watching. If you want to continue and you want to actually create this particle system I showed you in the beginning of the video, you can continue on 1mafx.com. There are various tiers you can pick, or you can just head to Patreon, and with one of the tiers you can get access to Unity and Unreal Engine tutorial how to create that projectile. All right, thank you so much.